Mansell out, and the World Championship has been won by Ayrton Senna.
The dust has barely cleared on the hectic contest of last year, but the great names have gathered again just outside Johannesburg as Formula One returns to Kyalami. It's the 43rd Formula One World Championship with a continuation of Senna against Mansell.
In all my Grand Prix career, I start the season, I believe, whether anyone else does doesn't matter to me, what I believe in the strongest position at any start of any one year. Myself, mentally, physically, being focused, the car, we know the car, we've got a similar engine, we've got the same gearbox, the same aerodynamics. So if you like, we've got certainly a 70% better chance of getting the job done this year, from the word go.
It was very exciting. It was a difficult task for me to beat Mansell with Williams Renault last year. We had really difficulties mid-season particularly, and fortunately we came out still as a number one, as a team, as a driver, as a group of people who contribute to that victory. I think this year can only be the same or even more.
Wheel-to-wheel stuff, look at this, they're almost touching.
That shootout down the Barcelona straight in the Spanish Grand Prix might not have given Mansell the World Championship, but it gave him at least a psychological equality with Senna. A couple of seasons ago, the thought from Mansell was retirement. This year, Williams are giving him his best ever world title chance, the kind of chance he would never turn down.
I unretired, so I feel I've retired and gone already, and now I'm sort of just enjoying myself on holiday, which I want. No, if the opportunity is still there for Nigel Mansell to drive for a team, whether it be Williams or another team, with the support from the manufacturers and sponsors to win races and go competitively for the World Championship, I'll stay in Formula One. It's as simple as that. But I will not, and I say this categorically, stay in Formula One to make the numbers up. If I don't honestly believe I have a package to try and win and go for the World Championship, then I think, you know, it's time to bow out, because if the manufacturers don't want to support you and the team doesn't want to support you, then what are you staying there for the money? No way.
The Williams advantage this year could come from the computerized suspension. It's either a race-winning tweak or something more to go wrong.
We have had 3.5 days in the winter where we had a lot of problems, but then also we just completed the longest Williams test ever, which was 7 straight days at Estoril, and the last 3.5 days was fantastic. We went very quickly, as probably the paper said, and we actually completed a Grand Prix distance without a problem, and that was very encouraging, and it was very necessary for the whole team, and especially the driver, to get some confidence.
The last South African Grand Prix was 1985. Mansell and Williams leading from start to finish. His first win outside Britain, and proof at least that he can cope with the Kyalami heat.
And Mansell coming up to the line.
To win his second Grand Prix in succession in superb style.
I think it's going to be incredibly tough. I was down with Mark McNulty playing golf in the Kruger Park yesterday, which is about an hour's jet ride from here. 44 degrees yesterday, and the last 4 or 5 holes I think we were walking in slow motion. And just playing golf, I lost 5 pounds in weight and fluid, which obviously we had to put on immediately last evening. But I mean, that was walking around a golf course. You can imagine driving a Formula One Grand Prix car. Obviously it's not as hot here in Kyalami and Johannesburg as down there, but I think it's going to be extremely tough.
Temperature is going to be up around 33, 34 probably. So how does that translate into the cockpit?
Cockpit's 170 degrees, 160, 170 degrees. It'll just be like a sauna. And the most important thing is that you've got to drink and drink and drink.
Circuit, are you impressed with?
Very impressed. Disappointed only from the point of view that one of the straights don't go into a slow corner, because then it's a better opportunity to overtake, braking from high speed down to real low speed, and it's safer too. They've got 2 possibilities of overtaking, but they're going into 4th, 5th gear corners, which are very fast. So it goes without saying that if you do touch another car when you're trying to overtake, then it becomes a very dangerous situation.
When you look at the opposition, inevitably Ayrton and McLaren, but how do you regard that package?
It goes without saying that Ayrton and McLaren and Honda they'll be setting the pace probably from tomorrow onwards, but it's up to us to actually sort of beat them and set a new pace. And I feel that the steps that Renault have made, and Elf, and the Williams team, and all the associated sponsors, we might possibly have made those steps, and we will have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. But there's not going to be any question over the 16-race season that I feel that the advantage at the moment lies with Honda McLaren.
Interestingly, you've not been testing head-to-head during the course of the close season. You can't get a measure from that.
No, I mean, it's
what do you read
incredible.
into that?
Well, it might be a little bit of complacency on their part. It might be that they've got, and I believe they've got the active car up and running. They've got the semi-automatic gearbox up and running, which they're introducing with the new car in Brazil. So I just feel maybe they've got something else up their sleeve that on the power stakes and on the chassis stakes that they know they'll be as quick as us, if not quicker, so therefore they're not worried about it. But we've certainly been testing and practicing and working at it, but they haven't been doing as much as we have, so I don't know. I sincerely hope it's a little bit of complacency, because then that's the biggest danger any team can have.
I'm neither satisfied or encouraged or frustrated this year. I am rather more realistic, and we'll have to wait and see how much progress we have done, how much progress our competitors have done during the past 3-4 months. Once we are all running at the same time, same conditions, all the testing, lap times during the winter are not much relevant to those conditions here in South Africa, and therefore we have to wait and see. I'm under no illusion that we are going to win the first 4 races like we did last year. I think that will be a lot more difficult this year, but the championship, you count 16 races, and we have to do our best with what we have got now until we can have our new car, new engine up to the level that we could be happy to race with.
So Senna starts with the same car that finished last season, but there are certainly changes elsewhere. Alain Prost's stormy relationship with Ferrari ended last season, and the 3-times world champion is missing from the grid this weekend. Disguised as Eric Comas, he's been testing with Ligier, negotiating as well, but no deal so far. Ferrari have a radical new car, Alesi and Capelli behind the wheel, but their biggest task is to recover from last season's political wrangling. And with this in mind, enter a great Ferrari name of the past.
All I'm really doing is to be an advisor to Mr. Lombardi, who is in charge. And they all want to do is just to use my experience and see if I can help. So really all I'm doing is watch the whole team performing. And if I see something, I just give my comment. But really, decision is all to Lombardi and the team.
From what you have seen then, what are the specific problems that the team have to face and sort out?
The specific problem is that Mansell is quicker. This is the first problem. But really it's too early to say, because the car is brand new. It was not tested before. Estoril was a test, but it rained heavily there. So really all we're doing is we come with a brand new car here to Kyalami, and we have to test it and see. But so far it's doing all right. So really all we have to do is first understand the car, understand the drivers, because they are brand new and they're young people. So we have to first get our act together, and then we see where our baseline is, and from there on, then you can take decisions. But any decision you take in Formula One takes a while to change things. So we have to wait and see.
The Silverstone-based Jordan team were one of the revelations of last season, their first in Grand Prix racing. This season, new backers means that the car has lost its distinctive livery of last year. It's got a new Yamaha engine, but not a really powerful driver lineup, Modena and Gugelmin. After serious financial problems in the last couple of seasons, Lotus have a new engine deal with Ford. They've done a lot of testing at Snetterton, and Britain's Johnny Herbert has new hope.
Well, we've learned a lot about the car. We've changed a lot of suspension details on the chassis itself, and that certainly seems to have made an improvement. And obviously the engine is night and day different from what we had last year, which was to be expected. But it's nice to have a competitive engine for, you know, we haven't had one for such a long time, and now we've got it. I think we can do a good job here. I think we've got a good chance, especially here, because a lot of teams I know haven't sorted things out, and we've done a little bit, so we know we're reliable.
How tough is it for the teams that are on the margin? I mean, not the McLarens or the Ferraris, for the teams that are really battling day to day? What is life like?
Well, it's really hectic because no one really knows what's going to happen, you know, the next day. So they're just living on a fine string, really. But they seem to get through it. Everybody seems to stick together, and you know, eventually they do get to every race.
Another absentee, PK, the Brabham hero at Kyalami in 1983. His absence from Benetton means a great opportunity for Martin Brundle, but PK will be missed.
And here comes PK. Over the line goes the world champion of 1983, Nelson Piquet, pounding the steering wheel of his Brabham BMW with sheer exultation, and rightly so.
So PK gone, and Norfolk's Martin Brundle gets a class drive in Tom Walkinshaw's Benetton team. But he's alongside a class teammate. Germany's precociously talented Michael Schumacher will push him very hard.
Well, he's 10 years my junior, and I wish I had his confidence at that age. He is a remarkable young man. He seems very fast. He hasn't got my experience. I think we combine together well at this stage. It's just what Benetton needs for the future. But I'll have my hands full beating him. But if you want to win in Grand Prix these days, you've got to beat Senna. If I'm going to beat Senna, I've got to beat Schumacher.
Yeah, it's going to be good for you, that kind of edge within the team, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're going to be pushing each other along, for sure. Your first gauge is against your own teammate because he's the only guy with the same equipment. He's going to be wanting to beat me like I'm going to be wanting to beat him so badly. But that's got to be constructive and not destructive, and I think we've got a good working relationship that'll make that healthy competition.
Now, this is a very, very competitive drive. Tell us a little bit about how it came about. Was it much to do with your relationship with Tom Walkinshaw?
Yes, I mean, I've been driving for Tom now over the last 12 years, and we've had some great races together in many ways, particularly with Jaguar, of course. And he's now become part owner of Benetton Ford, and he was keen to have me on board, and because I was delighted to join. He knows what I'm capable of. He gets more out of me than anybody else anyway, and he knows the input I can put into the team. So it all the work over all of the years came together all in one hit.
Right here now for the start of the season, what would you judge to be the gap between Benetton and McLaren and Williams?
I think Benetton's probably third best team at the moment, and I think we're between 1/2 and 1 second per lap slower than those two leading teams. That's a gap we've got to close over the next 12 months. And it's a little bit of horsepower, automatic transmissions, just a few things that make the difference on race day. But I want to see the team ahead of Ferrari at the end of the season, and I want to make sure I'm on the rostrum a few times. That's my achievable target for the year.
Are there areas, do you think, where perhaps you've got an advantage, perhaps reliability for one?
Well, our Ford V8 engine is extremely good, without doubt, and our car's very easy to set up. The engine's very compact, very light, and I think from time to time we're going to have a better balance. We're going to keep those tyres in a little bit better, and that's going to give us our chance.
What would it mean to you, after everything you've been through in the sport, not only to get on the rostrum, but to get on the rostrum as a winner?
It's got to happen. I mean, they've put too much into it. I've won in every category I've ever been in motor racing. I started when I was 12. This is my 21st year of motor racing. It's the final goal, and it's got to happen.
Martin Brundle has worked hard for his opportunity. By comparison, Paul Belmondo at March has jumped the queue. He's one of a number of drivers with limited qualifications at the bottom end of the pit lane. The Italian Giovanna Amati is another who is effectively buying a Grand Prix chance, and their presence reflects little credit on what is, after all, a world championship. And that's not just my opinion.
What worries me and appalls me is that Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, and at the pinnacle you should have not only the best teams and cars and engines, but the best drivers. Right, we've got the best drivers, but there are some who are not worthy of being there. And it's not their fault. You can't blame them, or the sponsors, or the teams. You have to blame the system. Now, the system says if you've got a super license, you can drive, and they've got a super license. I just wish that there was some way of tightening things up so that the right people were in the right seats. But having said it, I don't know what the answer is.
So let's assume then, at the other end of the field, it's Senna against Mansell. Pick one driver who might just interrupt that rivalry this year.
Oh, you're a hard man, Steve. But without hesitation, I say Riccardo Patrese. He is still an underestimated man. He's the most experienced Grand Prix driver of them all. He is fired up. He thinks he can drive as well as Nigel Mansell does. I have reason to believe that Nigel himself is a bit worried about the competition that Patrese is going to represent. And Patrese is not getting any younger. He's got equal equipment with Mansell, and I'm expecting him very much to be about the place this year.
As ever, we look forward to the verdict of yourself and James tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you.